today for our sixth webinar of the Entrepreneur Bootcamp webinar series. We're so excited to have you here, and our topic for today is moving your business online, and it will be facilitated by Corinna Boston Pinellas and Perry Sondage. I would like to also introduce myself and my team. My name is Sadia, and I will be the monitor for today's webinar. And we also have our translator, Rocio, and our technical support person, Sacha. During the webinar, you will be able to ask questions. You can do that by clicking the Q&A button that shows up on the bottom of your screen. This webinar is provided under a grant from the Texas Workforce Commission, Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area, and the Service Learning Excellence Program at Texas State University. Corinna and Perry, thank you so much for being a part of the series, and I will now hand this over to you.
Thank you. So Perry's going to join us later, but I'd like to just say that we're delighted that you're joining us today on this wonderful, hot summer day here in Texas. We are here welcoming the opportunity to not only learn how to innovate your business, but future-proof your business by navigating it online. This webinar is about more than just creating a website. This webinar is about reviewing several essential steps that actually help you create a successful online presence. Let me go ahead and take a second to make sure you're able to see the screen better. And do y'all want to make it into presentation? There you go. Sweet. Awesome. So again, this webinar is about more than just creating a website. So this webinar will review several essential steps actually in creating a successful online presence. Today, we will also be including marketing your services, establishing an online presence, and looking over payment processing, whether you're wanting to create an online presence for your business or your startup or move your services online. This webinar is going to benefit your business. As mentioned earlier, I am Corinna Boston Pinellas, and I will be one of your speakers, along with my business partner, Perry Sondage. Today, I'm going to provide you with my expertise and my experience when it comes to over nearly a decade worth of working with startups and entrepreneurs, or anyone that just really had an idea and wants to successfully scale that idea by launching a business, including those who have worked in the virtual space. Either most of their business, they've been in the virtual digital world, or their business careers, and moving that from a brick and mortar to into an online business. I've worked with a number of diverse backgrounds and starting points when it comes to moving and navigating online. Luckily, Perry, she is a seasoned accountant and bookkeeper who brings multiple decades worth of experience. She's bringing decades worth of experience not only from startups and entrepreneurs, but the world of nonprofits and mid-level corporate world. She also has technical knowledge and background that supersedes anything that I can provide you today. But it's great that she's going to be here with us because she's going to give you the tools and help you feel empowered in order for you to successfully feel like you can actually move your business online. All right, so before we get started, I'd like for you to make sure that you have a pen and paper. So if you need to take a few seconds to go grab one, go ahead and do that. But before we dive straight in, let's look about where we're going so we can have a clear vision of our direction during this webinar. First, I'm going to work with you and talking over what's essential for you to establish an online presence. And then from there, we're going to go and I'm going to hand off the webinar to Perry. And this is where Perry is going to go over the resources that you need to just configure your online store. Following that, she's going to go over the technical parts of payment processing and the procedures that you need to know in order for successfully setting up and understanding what you need to determine as far as a payment process and what's best for your business. She's going to move directly into managing that online business and compliance. That way you stay in a good space throughout your online business. Then I'll wrap up with you by joining me at the end of the webinar, where we're going to go over marketing your services and lead straight into the questions that you might have, along with providing you the answers to those questions. So before everything, again, please get your pen and paper, because we are going to go over a few activities. I'd like for you to write down any questions that you may have, which we can share at the end. Note that you can add your questions, if it's easier for you, in the Q&A down below where the chat is. Once you're thinking about them, I suggest just write them down, because I'd like for you to stay as engaged and with us throughout this webinar and not lose track of where you are because you're submitting something in the Q&A. This way you can stay focused throughout the whole time that we're here today. So I'm going to go ahead and get off the screen so we can focus on the slide in front of us. So starting any transition project or adding a new component to your business is imperative to set your goal and understand what the outcome you desire to see will look like. Establishing your online presence ultimately means your main goal is for you to develop a brand and product awareness. Each and every action you have needs to consider and have any change in every effort that's ultimately getting you closer to the goal that you have set for your online presence. As stated in front of you, our main goal right now is just to get brand and product awareness. So ultimately, this feeds into existing goals and later down the road, any KPIs that you might set. So let's begin by asking ourselves, are you an online market such as Amazon or eBay? And do you already have an existing presence in some capacity online? Or are you a brick and mortar that is needing to innovate, especially during these pandemic times? Examining and understanding these questions just from the get-go is very important so you can define and capitalize on the existing assets that you already have. For example, so if you're an existing brick and mortar, you may already have a clientele or a loyal customer who can be dependent on when you need them to give you true and honest feedback. You might also see this loyal customer as family, someone that you connect with and you have adopted into your business world. This is your rooted baseline community. You may also have a physical presence in your local community and be active within other organizations or business alliances that help broadcast or market your service and or your products. If you're an existing marketplace, you also have variances of these assets as described in a brick and mortar business. Considering these assets, this could be in the form of capacity in which you are being a part of a marketplace store or having affiliated products that reviews or having like affiliated products that you already have reviews for, or by having multiple platforms which existing product and services live within marketplaces. You could also be a part of communities that are online or groups that have a focus that either are specific interest groups that drive product existence where they live in marketplaces, and you already have sales and services. All of these assets are key considerations because you may possibly not be just starting from absolute scratch. Building your community is one of the strongest assets and needs for a business, no matter where you are within your entrepreneurial journey. Even if you're a serialpreneur or you're a startup or just someone that has an existing concept, a community is your lifeblood. They will be there to evaluate new markets and understand customer demand. You have a safe and vulnerable place with your community where you can get feedback and you can grow and scale your concept or your business. The community is more than just market research. A community draws and gives you an identity. That identity and helps you define who you are, not only by that, but how you relate to your potential client or your customers. So considering that if you're in the inception part of your business, you're in or you might be also in just a vulnerable startup position that's having to consider innovating opportunities, because let's face it, we're all facing unprecedented times in a pandemic. And even if we weren't, there is always options or challenges that we are faced with as a business owner or entrepreneur. And we always need to be able to innovate and diversify. The current conditions are what they are, and additional revenue streams is helped by the community that you build. The community building, honestly, it should just be your top priority no matter what stage you're in. If you have an existing community, it's really helpful to always be nurturing and engaging with that community, just like an ecosystem. You want to be adding members in the form of new, existing, and potential community members. Building a community with the ultimate goal of establishing your online presence through brand recognition and awareness. Social media, it's a no-brainer, right? Commerce now has taken on a new form, and in recent times, it's dependent on social media as a main artery of communication and brand identity, as well as scalability. Social media not only includes your business pages, your posts, or your paid ads, but this also includes special interest groups, hobby groups, and other niche focuses that are either private or targeted towards a certain product or lifestyle brand. We'll go more in depth with about approaches and opportunities in marketing later. Throughout this webinar, we're going to build to that point where it makes sense on how to move into marketing and really communicating with your potential customer base. I bring up social media with the broad stroke of understanding that social media is not only a key component to doing business now, but leveraging these assets at various levels of business is how you grow. Partnering websites. Okay, so this refers to industry relatable websites that you want to support you and bring in additional networks that independently you just wouldn't be able to tap into unless you were an affiliated member already or giving some type of capital exchange. Now, I want you to remember that capital is not only monetary. Capital can be in the form of knowledge capital, skill trade, as well as trust capital, the most invaluable form of capital. Partnering websites can also include service or products that complement your product or services. Let me give you an example. So if you are a local gym and you are considering partnering with other products or resources that you can refer your current clients to, if you're that receiving end that could be an affiliate of that local gym, you can partner with existing products that serve the health and wellness sector, right? So that's a partnering website that makes sense. The gym that has their own website partnering up with a business owner or a company that provides products in the health and wellness sector. This is a natural fit for partnering websites that can generate leads and potential clients for that gym or for that product provider. Product websites, they take us directly into the business or industry organizations. If you're a startup that identifies as a young professional, it makes sense for you to collaborate and seek out organizations that have similar age groups as you. And joining these potential organizations that you can relate to will only add to promotion and being able to understand you as a young professional. Now, if you're a minority-owned company, it makes sense to seek out minority-focused business advocacy groups or similar sector industries that promote and offer supportive services for minority-owned businesses. that are within that sector that you can relate to. This can be in the form of professional organizations. An example of this, think about it if you're an engineering consultant and you have a firm that you've created and you're wanting to expand, but you're also a minority-owned business. It makes sense for you to seek out industry-specific minority-represented organizations that relate or support the engineering sector. Each of these three areas that I've gone over benefit from the compound theory, multiplying the opportunity to spread and expose your product or service to multiple parties simultaneously or during a campaign, and having the opportunity to promote and broadcast to your network that is complemented by other networks within social media partnering, websites, or professional organizations. Now, however, the most loyal customer is the gem of opportunities and the potential clients that you can receive from them. Word of mouth is always superior to other outlets that may present themselves as you develop your business. Loyal customers feed and add to the invaluable trust capital in the form of relationship between the provider and the receiver of any business. Whether it is a product or service, your community consists of multiple representations, but the loyal customer, this is the ultimate focus within that ecosystem. Their perspective, their reasoning for repeating and coming back to their experience, or their relationship with you, this speaks volumes and can responsibly grow a community of support and exponential loyalty. Just consider how much business you receive, or even when you're a startup and you're just asking around for feedback, you know who you go to out of loyalty and that you can trust, because ultimately you know that they're going to exchange your information responsibly and bring you more customers. No one can ever replace the loyal customer in any form as strongly as the loyal customer adds to your business. All right, so think about how to reach out to existing groups or other outlets that will benefit your business, right? This is considered the discovery phase. Each startup, where every business is in a transition phase, this is what they go through. Even if you're an established business and you have a transitional phase that you're going through, the discovery phase ultimately always happens. And this is when you decide to dedicate a good deal of time to market viability, just simply putting it, making sure that you have a product or service that will continue and acquire repeat customers. A component of market viability for online business is to dedicate time to discovering your competitive advantage. Seeking out what existing products are already out there. Those things to consider are just key in learning more about existing markets and what you specifically are going to do and contribute as a change agent in the industry. We're going to go over more in detail when we get to research later in the following slide that we're going to go to, but I would like for you now to take that pen and paper that you have as we're going to go over developing a customer avatar. So I'll give you a few seconds to get that pen and paper. If you need to drink some water, let's just stand up, shake it out, and be ready to kind of think this through, because a customer avatar is really, really important. All right, you ready? A customer avatar in the detailed profile is your ideal customer who you specifically would want to have as your customer. This is not a assumption or a category of people or a demographic that you need to think about. It's not a broad concept when it comes to your avatar. So think about going into this exercise that we're thinking about an individual. Okay, and if you can start thinking about someone right now, this will help get those juices flowing when thinking about who that ideal customer could be. You're not going to group this person or you're not going to just group this person in a broad category, but what you're going to do is going to actually work in thinking as this as an individual. Instead, target the individual and outline everything about them. So consider what an average avatar is, right? By definition, this is usually a figure representing a person or an icon. Creating an identity for your avatar makes relating and understanding your avatar more realistic. An avatar is not just randomly made, yet an avatar is discovered, and research that you've done drives you into that discovery phase to understand your ideal customer avatar. If you've already been in business or you have a marketplace, you may already have been able to identify your ideal customer because you have real world experience to reflect from. When you're just starting from the ground level and you're a startup that does not have an ideal customer avatar yet, consider this avatar as your best case scenario, or a regular loyal customer or client who consistently returns, highly regards your business, and shares your business's services with others within their network. I'd like for you to take this time now to begin brainstorming through an exercise of who your ideal customer avatar would be. I encourage you to actively take your pen and paper and write down the following questions. The reason I'm telling you not to type this and I'm telling you to write down these questions is because you get a visceral reaction and you're able to actually pull from your memory bank who it is that you can identify as your customer avatar. So bear with me, and no one's looking at your handwriting. No one knows what color pen you're writing in. Just take that paper and pen and let's write this down. First, who is your customer or client currently? And then leave some space. Second, why have they come to you? And think about it in terms of what problem you're solving. All right, and now leave some more space. Now, how have they learned about your product or service? And I would like for you to consider how you've attracted them to you. All right, so go back up to the top with the first question. If you're a startup, you need to think about who your test market is, or who you've asked to give you a viable feedback pertaining to your services or idea in the current stage that you're in within the startup. This is the group of friends and family that you might go to. You might think that friends and family are all the same, but I'm pretty sure that you went to specific friends and family that you know that you would get some feedback or answers from. This can help you identify characteristics that drew you to ask one family member or friend over the other. I'd like for you to consider spending a dedicated hour, if not longer, towards identifying who your customer is. But right now, for the sake of the webinar, I'd like for you just to write 5 to 10 current clients or customers that you have. If you're a startup or just have a short customer base, think about those that you've reached out to that are friends and family, or feedback that you have received from individuals that you reached out to in your current startup phase. Go ahead and write those names down. All right, so write down underneath those names a list of a few characteristics that you can identify in relation to them. Those characteristics should consist of their lifestyle, their income, their type of job, hobbies or interest, their geographical location, and how they identify. If they're outgoing or introverted, put that down. How they identify and engage in the world deciphers the type of language that you're going to use to attract that ideal customer. Think about their values. Think about what drives them. So just take a few more minutes to write down a few of those characteristics. I'm going to go down suggested characteristics again, so you can be thinking of that while you're writing down. So those characteristics could be lifestyle, income, the type of job that they have, if they're a high professional or their service industry, their hobbies, interest, geographical location, where they're located. You don't want to sell sunscreen to to someone that lives in the cold and long winter. You want to sell sunscreen more or less to someone who lives like on the West Coast of the United States or somewhere it's really sunny, or Texas right now. Yeah, you know, it's really hot. Caps probably are in season. So think about that. That's really helpful to know where their geographical location is. And consider how they identify, you know, if they're outgoing or they're introverted, or even if they identify with a certain type of group. Okay, now we're going to move to the second question. How did that customer come to you, or that client? Were you able to draw your customer base to you specifically? Now, I don't want you to just limit yourself to, well, I called that person up, or a family or friend that I already knew. I just reached out to them. If you're a startup, I'd like for you to ask how that individual would ideally come to you in order for you to give them and them to receive your services or purchase your product. Just think about what drives them to come to you, if they have to get in their car and drive to you, or if they seek you out and search for you on an online search engine. Do they walk to you if they are on foot because you're easily accessible? And if you have a brick and mortar, in consideration of online engagement, would they search for you and look for you through blogs or other opportunities to seek out product information? Think about the testimonials that they might look at and consider that web traffic that might potentially come from. If you're a marketplace, think about the web traffic that you're drawing in and that you have coupled your products with other products that complement what you offer or your services that are related. These considerations, they go hand in hand on the next question that I'm going to ask. How have you attracted your ideal customer? What are the qualities of your product or services that you have already put forth in order to attract your ideal customer? On your list, be sure and write down any thoughts and processing that's coming forward. Don't worry about if it's correct. No one's grading this. Like, just brain dump everything that you can think of. And feel free to continue writing right now. I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of an avatar. So keep in mind the characteristics and the qualities that you've written down that help you identify and tighten up who your ideal avatar is. Okay, so meet Raja. They're a non-binary business professional who's in their early 40s and has an income about $75,000. They're moving up in their career and establishing a new phase in their professional career and identity. They need a virtual assistant to stay on top of their priorities, obligations, and especially when it comes to bookkeeping and dealing with their financial affairs. They also are a mission-driven person who gives back and volunteers routinely at their local community Boys and Girls Club. This customer values integrity and spirituality, and they're spiritually minded and believes in giving back. They're enjoyable and fun to be around, and they're always having get-togethers or cookouts with their friends and family. They are currently inspired to create a blog, and this is motivating them to become more and more organized and efficient in their professional schedule. Raja is also a relationship-driven person. They focus on connection and opportunity with their personal and professional life regularly. They work out at the local gym and occasionally play soccer in groups at the local YMCA. So now you know a lot about Raja and what they do on their day-to-day, their habits, their thoughts, their feelings around certain reflected identity qualities. This is how detailed and specific you need to get when it comes to identifying your ideal customer avatar. I don't encourage making up an imaginary person, but I really do think that creating an avatar that's realistic and potentially could be a real customer is so important. Now, this doesn't mean that you should be only considering this avatar and stuck with them. Accommodating this avatar will help you be able to always refer back to this potential customer. This avatar gives you a baseline to touch and connect and come back to anytime that you feel that your marketing is off or you're missing opportunities within your business scope to really draw in more customers. If you're swaying away from your ideal avatar, this might have a lot to do with the low traction that you're experiencing online. If your web traffic is declining, or you're seeing a decline in routine sales that you've noticed. This avatar is helpful to go back to and check in and reestablish your goals in any direction at any point of your business. All right, research. I mentioned earlier, we're going to get to this slide. So this should not be where you sell yourself short when it comes to research. Researching online to discover your customers is key because you're basically looking at your competition. Be sure to do this now in an incognito browser and clear your search history and browser history prior to researching. This also helps after you have cleared out your browser or your history to restart your laptop and give your browsers a fresh restart. If it's your laptop or your tablet or your computer, after you've cleared out your history and browsing, go to an incognito window. And this allows you not to have bias, like your own preferences, your already existing research is not attached to this browser. If you want to go even further, Tor, T as in Tom, O, R as in Roger, that browser you can download and it has a higher level of security on it, so you don't have as much cookies or traction while you're researching and looking for things. This way, again, your research is clear, it's focused, and it's what other people are experiencing. This allows you to use search engines to find similar products or services throughout lifestyle blogs, groups or affiliations, professional organizations that you're attracted to, and it also helps you find complements of your services or products. Conducting keyword search helps you list and find the most appropriate tags, keywords, things that identify and relate to your product or services, because this feeds into your online presence through your SEO, your search engine optimization, keywords and tabs that you want to integrate into your online business. So when I talk about SEO, I'm talking about the attached words and tags that you put in the back end on your website, or you have your web developer be sure and list when they are helping develop and establish your website or wherever your online presence lives. Okay, so the paper that you were using earlier when we were designing our customer avatar, I'd like for you to consider these 3 questions when you're conducting your research in your discovery phase. So when you go into your time where you're focused on researching, I'd like for you to consider the weaknesses that you can spot in your competition that you can take advantage of. If you're launching a product or a service that is filling a void that you have repeatedly found within your industry, write those weaknesses that you are looking for that your competition reflects. Think about your market saturation. Is this a repeated service or product? Is it very prevalent? Can you find a lot of it? Or is this something that's unique and niche focused? And think about obvious industry leaders. Is there someone that comes to mind immediately in your industry, or that you think about, that you go straight to, that's a guru, that you idolize, or that a lot of people talk about when they think about your product or service? So considering your discovery phase and research, think about where there's commonalities that have drawn you to where you are now and establishing your online presence. It's very helpful to map out a strategy in order for you to build community that really takes the time to consider if you want to focus on developing your social media groups or inviting individuals to a group and building a strong, solid group within a social media outlet. Or consider the business and professional organizations that you can think of, that there are existing communities or special interest areas that you would want to develop a community there, or at least relate and expand your network. When you're building out and mapping this strategy to build your community and develop a real intimate level of relationship, you need to write down certain tasks that are going to get you to the space that you want to be at when building your community. And also identify that level of intimacy. How much do you want to know about your potential clients or customers? You know, how do you want to relate and be able to communicate with them on a one-on-one basis? Are you going to have a huge customer base where it's going to be very challenging to intimately connect on a one-on-one? And if you want to be able to savor that intimacy, but yet be able to scale, how are you going to keep consistency that measures the level of intimacy you have with your customer base? So establishing your expertise. You want to become a consistent expert in forums and social network sites where your target market hangs out, where you can find them. Take some time to explore your industry and invite yourself through services. An example of this can be finding blogs or finding news articles and looking at who's been the author, or different industry leading newsletters and the authors of those newsletters. Go ahead and research out and just ask to feature or share their product or services or their newsletter to your network while you're developing out your expertise. If you start establishing lines of communication by offering something and receiving an opportunity, then it ultimately translates and exemplifies the opportunity for you to become an expert when you put content out. So start attracting your potential customers who can provide feedback by signing them up for a mailing list, or to opt in and join a wait list to be notified when your product or service is going to launch. This also can be just a short list of previous customers or clients that you have. Go ahead and add that to an email list. But if you already have testimonials from existing customers or clients, because you're transitioning online, go ahead and revisit those testimonials by reaching out to them and refresh them. Give them a little bit of just a refresh makeover of what it would look like if they had received your product or service online if they didn't. So this brings me to the end of establishing your online presence portion of this webinar. Think about the fact that the internet is a vast space where anyone can find anything just by quickly researching it, even on our phone, right? Like, they don't have to have a computer to just look something up these days. This enforces the reason behind having your product be top of the line or your service be known for its quality. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Perry now. So you've gotten a lot of the soft skills of things to think about when establishing your presence online. Perry is going to give you the technical know-it-all of what you need to think about when considering your online presence. So Perry, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Corinna. Let me try and get control of the slides right quick. Let's see. Okay. So now that you have all of this wonderful information, let's see what it takes to create an online store. And I'm going to turn off my video so that you can concentrate on the slides. Okay. The first thing you need to decide before you can create an online store is what you're going to be selling. This could be a service that you provide. It could be software or some other item that can be downloaded, a product you create or manufacture yourself, or something that you create such as food that you need to deliver in some way. But the choices you make about what you will sell will determine how it's presented. Once you've determined the products, then you have to decide how they will be presented. If you have a restaurant with a menu, you will want the online menu to look a lot like what the customer sees when they come into your restaurant. If you have physical products that you're trying to sell, you will want to include a lot of pictures and descriptions to make it easy for the customer to understand what you have for sale. It is trickier if you have something like software that can be downloaded. It is hard to have a picture of software, although I've seen a lot of websites that use screenshots for these kinds of items, or you can even include a video of that product in use. For those with services, it is important to include detailed descriptions of those services. What you want is to give your target audience a reason to purchase your products. The next thing you need to keep in mind is product pricing. How you are pricing your items will have an impact on the software that you will need for your online presence. For example, if you are selling a monthly subscription to a product, you need to find a provider that makes it easy to set up recurring transactions. On the other hand, those who sell products that are subject to sales tax must find a system that makes it easy to report and pay the sales tax. You also want a system that makes it easy to change the pricing. It doesn't do any good to have products online if it takes 20 minutes to change a product's price. This might work for something that you have been selling for years and never changed the price, but it doesn't work if you're constantly creating new products with variable pricing. If you will be selling worldwide, you also have to keep in mind the availability of that software in your different markets and how it will deal with foreign currency and exchange rates. Now that you have these main items figured out, your next step is to choose some kind of software for use for your online store. There are many options available today to create an online store. Each one has its own good and bad points. The first option listed is Amazon. Now, some of you may think that you don't have the option of using Amazon for your store. Fortunately, Amazon will work with almost anyone. They do have certain requirements and restrictions, but once you have been approved, you can list your products in their store. This, of course, is an enormous advantage since they have the largest online store in the world. They also happen to be a fulfillment center, which we will talk about in a minute. Amazon can easily be integrated into your website and social media. One of the more popular options is Shopify. This product can also easily be integrated into your current website or social media with a simple link. The software basically helps you create a very nice store and cart system. It gives you the option of putting in pictures and descriptions, and they're very good at hand-holding you through the process of creating a store. Also available are options such as Squarespace and Wix, which are both website development software. They both allow you to create stores within their systems while you're creating your website. These work well if you don't currently have a website and you don't want to spend a lot of money on creating a new website. They are both user-friendly with templates and robust customer support. You can connect your social media to your new website with both of these systems. There is now a new option on Facebook that allows you to sell through Facebook. This will reach a limited audience, but it may work for your products. It isn't necessarily a full-fledged store, but this might work for you in the interim until you can create a store in one of the other products. Of course, you can always create a custom store within your website. This will depend upon your resources and how many products you are trying to sell. If you are selling something like a single one-time service, this may be all that you need. Now let's talk about what I think is one of the most important parts of your online store. How are you going to fulfill these orders? If you are selling a product that can easily be downloaded, you need to look for a system that will store your products and make sure that they are protected from hackers. It will not be any help to your sales if you don't actually get the money when somebody buys your product. For those whose products are physical items, you will have to figure out how you will manufacture these items and fulfill your orders. How are you going to get these orders to your customer? Are you going to fulfill them yourself, possibly with employees and someone physically taking the order to the post office? Of course, you can also have FedEx or UPS come and pick them up. But if you're fulfilling your orders this way, you need to have a space for inventory and fulfillment. For those with physical items, there is the option of using Amazon. Amazon has the warehouses and the employees to take care of your orders. They have programs that allow you to work with them and use them to sell your products, and they will fulfill the orders. There is a process that you have to go through to become a part of their system, and of course there are fees that you have to pay for this service. But in the long run, this may be less expensive than doing it all yourself. For those who are selling on-demand products, such as a coffee shop or a restaurant, the biggest hurdle isn't the production, but the delivery. Of course, there are several options for this also. Today, we have such things as Favor, DoorDash, GitHub, Grubhub, and Uber Eats. There are probably even some local services that serve your area. Of course, these charge a fee, but you would want to weigh that against hiring someone to do the delivery for you. The last item I want to discuss is how are you going to deal with returns? If you are a restaurant, you are not necessarily need to deal with returns, but you do need to give your customers a way to reach out to you if they have any problems. If you're a software provider or you have some other downloadable item, you're not necessarily going to deal with returns, but again, your customers should be given a way to contact you. And finally, if you have a physical product and people are not satisfied, you should include in your store a way to accommodate returning those items. This can be as simple as including a phone number or an email address on the orders. Now I'm going to talk about payment processing procedures. Once you have sales online, you're going to want to receive the money people are spending on your product. The most important decision you make is who you will use to process these payments. There are many providers on the internet who can integrate payment processing into your website. There are even companies that will process credit cards for you without you having a website. Some of the most popular are Square, PayPal, and Stripe. Each of these has their own pros and cons. I've also listed QuickBooks as a possible provider, and we'll explain how that might help in a minute. Square is very easy to use. You can set things up in their software and actually use Square as your store. Just link it to your social media and your website. They send payments to you on a daily basis. Of course, there is a transaction fee, which currently is 2.6% flat fee plus a 10% per transaction fee. They also have pretty good reports. PayPal is very well known and is also easy to use. They take a fluctuating fee on each transaction. PayPal transfers the money based on the way you've set up the account. They will transfer it automatically when you receive a transaction, or you can leave it in your PayPal account and transfer it when you want. Another advantage of PayPal is the ability to pay your bills from their system. You can pay either from your income balance, or they will take it automatically from the attached bank account. Unfortunately, the reports from PayPal are not, in my opinion, as user-friendly as the other options. Stripe is also a popular software. This software has to run through some other kind of software. This means that you set up your website on Squarespace or some other option, and then you will be required to set up a Stripe account to manage the payment processing from that store. Stripe automatically transfers your money to you each day. They also charge a 2.9% flat fee plus a 30 cents per transaction fee. The reports on Stripe are also user-friendly. Finally, let's talk about QuickBooks. If you are selling one or two items that you may want to just use your bookkeeping system to process the payments. Say, for example, you sell a high-dollar service that you have listed on your website. A customer places an order that you receive via email. You then enter an invoice in QuickBooks and use their payment processing system to receive the customer's payment. This is an option if you currently don't have the resources to set up an online store using another system. No matter which service you use, you need to understand what kind of security the company is going to provide for your payments and your customers' information. You want to make sure that they are secure enough so that returning customers have the opportunity to use the credit card information they entered previously. The ones I've mentioned have this level of security because they are large companies. If you are looking at other providers, security is an important part of your decision. It's also to understand how the providers will handle customers who pay with cash or checks if those payments are options you want to provide to your customers. It is helpful if you do take cash or check payments to have those integrated into your system. For example, Square allows payments from your credit cards, cash, and checks to be run through their system without any problems. This allows you to report on all your income, not just on your credit card income. Another important consideration is how you will get your money. Will you have to have a specific bank account for your software to be sent to, for the software to send you your money? Depending on the service, they may have restrictions on the type of account that they can send money to. How often will a company send you money? If you need cash for your business on a daily basis and the company is not paying you daily, you need to know that. And finally, what is the lag time on your deposits? Some companies send their money the day they receive the transaction and you receive it in 1 to 2 days in your account. Others may take 24 to 48 hours to send the money, and then it takes 3 to 4 days to receive it in your account. There can also be a lag because some companies do not send anything over the weekends. These lags are important to know about if you are a small company that is dependent on getting your money as soon as possible. So that brings us to the reports. What kind of information do you need so you understand what your sales and income are? Do you have the information you need to be able to report and pay your sales tax? Are you able to get what you need to create any financial statements that a bank may require? Each of the options I have discussed today have different kinds of reports. They each have different reporting options. Since they are so varied, it doesn't hurt to look at what reports are available before you completely decide on who you will use as your payment processing company. An important issue for people like me is how the payments will integrate into your bookkeeping system. You will want to keep track of how you are getting your income from your online sales. If you're using a system such as QuickBooks or another online bookkeeping system, you will want to be able to get the income data into the system without spending a lot of time entering things. One of the issues that you might have in this integration is how the bookkeeping system deals with your transactions. If you're selling products for a small amount of money and you're working with QuickBooks, some of these providers send every single payment over as one transaction for the sale along with a separate fee payment transaction. So that means that at the end of the day, if you have done 100 transactions that day that are all $1.35, you're going to get 200 transactions in QuickBooks for that day. There are ways to get around this, but you want to keep this in mind when you choose the payment processing company and when you choose how you're going to integrate it into the bookkeeping system. If you're not using a computerized bookkeeping system, maybe you've decided to go with just paper and pencil or perhaps an Excel spreadsheet, then it's very important to have reports that you can understand so those numbers can be transferred into your system. The final area I want to cover is legal compliance. The main thing you need to make sure of when you have an online store is that you are following the laws of the communities where you are selling your products. There are some places that charge sales tax for everything that is sold in their area, even those products sold online, whether the company is in their area or not. There are also places that only require you to charge sales tax to those customers from your specific area. But however you sell your products, you need to make sure that you are collecting the information you need to be able to create the reports that are required by those entities. One way to find out the information that you need is to call the comptroller or the sales tax office of the area where you are selling your products and ask them what their rules are. I know in the state of Texas, the comptroller's office is very helpful on this. Another thing is to make sure that the business name that you use online either matches your offline business name or that you follow all local requirements for business naming. This might mean that you need to get a DBA or a doing business as for the online name. The last thing that is quite important is to have an IRS employee identification number or an EIN for your business. Most people think that these are only needed if you have employees, but you can have one even if you don't pay anyone except yourself. It is always a good idea to have one for your business. This way, you don't have to give out your own personal ID when doing any kind of business that requires an EIN. You can get an EIN online at the IRS website very quickly. Now that we've finished the technical side of this webinar, I will turn it back over to Corinna to cover the next section.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Perry. I hope everyone feels so empowered by the technical resources you went over. I know when we started Splash, it was a relief for me to have you as a business partner because that was not my strong area. And it's been so helpful to have that reliability of knowledge that you provide. And I know that our attendees today got a wealth of information, so great job. Please, everyone stay tuned because Perry will join us during the Q&A, but we're going to wrap up this webinar with I don't know, I'm biased, but I think very important component of online business is marketing. So that's what we will be going over next. So I'm gonna get control of the presentation now so we can get to slide 35. Awesome. Again, now that Perry's provided you all the technical information and support and considerations when moving your business online or just creating a business that's online, we want to think about marketing your services. Remember at the beginning of our webinar, we established the goal of brand awareness. Now we're going to consider the main goal of marketing your services or product. That main goal is to drive traffic to your website and then convert that website traffic to sales. This is ultimately what you want to be doing no matter what your focus is. This is where you make revenue. All of your marketing should be focused on website traffic. Your website must be easy to access and identifiable to anyone that's searching for you and your product. The easier it is for someone to find you, the easier it is for them to make a decision to complete a sale. I bring this up because you want to have a user-friendly website that's dummy-proof. When a customer goes in to have an engagement with you online, if they relate that experience where they are frustrated or confused, then your product and service and your website is associated with that confusion and frustration, just vicariously through that experience. So the more easy and approachable and user-friendly your website and the completion of a sale is, the more related to your product of happiness and joy and excitement your customer will categorize that experience. It just intrinsically becomes wired into our brain when we have either a experience of discomfort or excitement. Those two feelings or reactions that you get from an experience are the black and white of how we categorize and make a memory. So you want to make sure that you have a website that is inviting and friendly. Website traffic comes in the form of organic or natural searches. They can also be paid searches through Google Ads or social media ads that you pay for through email marketing. That can also be a reminder that you need to continue to build your email list, and how you develop a customer base that you can refer to from that email list. Existing in online promotions, whether it be in the forms of blogs that you're featured on or highlights and other content because they featured you, and you offer an online presentation that drives traffic to your website. The no-brainer, of course, is social media, networks and strategies of link building. Now that networks and strategies of link building to your website is when there are other links that are out there on either people's pages or social media and partnering websites, similar to what we went over in the first part of the webinar, that builds links and drives traffic. So think of this in a sense of your online presence and how, like, Instagram influencers, they have a link in their bio. That is an example of link building because that link in their bio could go to your website, or if there's other online platforms that utilize your link or use a Bitly link, that's something I definitely recommend because Bitly gives you strong analytics, and we'll go into what KPIs are here in a second, but that's what I mean by link building. So you want to find your key sales funnel to focus on. This is just as important as your ideal avatar, and understanding your sales funnel allows for you to target your marketing efforts and really strengthens the area in which you can become not only the expert, but a high demand in your industry. So defining your key sales funnel allows for you to understand your customer value journey, the journey in which your customer is driven to you through your defined sales funnel. So measuring your online success from the beginning is imperative for you to be able to go back and compare what's working. Establishing KPIs or key performance indicators, this gives you consistent measurements where you're able to look at your consistent analytics and the degrees of which you receive and identify information. So when you launch a marketing campaign or you establish a campaign online, you want to always be able to go back and compare the success of that campaign through analytics. Those analytics mirror the KPIs that you've set in place for you to be able to measure your performance levels and measure the success of those performance measures. Important metrics. That can be in the form of conversion rates, click-through rates, average time on your website, page view, and number of visits. So let's go back to the top of that list. When thinking about your website, the conversion rate is considering when your client website traffic is driven to your site, and then what the conversion rate looks like as far as website traffic, and then when they convert into a sales. Click-through rates, that is when someone goes to your website and they're looking through the different tabs or sections of your website and they're clicking through your website. So the click-through rates gives you basically a roadmap of what your visitation attendees are doing throughout your website and navigating to important information that gives you key indicators to know what's working and what needs improvement on. The average time on your website. Now this is a two-factor level of importance. One, if someone's spending a lot of time on your website where it makes sense, so they're reading your website, they're engaging with your website because they're spending, a good amount of time, and a good amount of time is over 30 seconds on a website tab. If you have a blog or you have an article or a research paper or any content information that lives on your website, it makes sense that you want to see that there's a lot of time being spent, because that means that someone's reading and engaging with that featured content. If your average time on your website is reflected in the sales area of your website and transaction, and they're spending more than the average time that they should be actually converting a sale, that's giving you a strong indicator as the second part of the average time on your website indication that you're not user-friendly and that there's improvements and the customer journey is being bottlenecked at that engagement point. Page views. So when you look in the back end of your website provider, you should be able to have access to these analytics. If not, Google Analytics, if you sign up and you plug into Google Analytics, you'll be able to be provided these important metrics to consider. And again, these metrics feed into the established KPIs that you set at the beginning of any campaign or goals that you set. Page views refers to when someone has looked at a page or looked at a tab and how much traffic is being driven there. The number of visits, so how many times someone visits your website is another solid metric, especially if you have a call to action and you say, visit our website or visit this portion of our tab, look for the service tab on our website. The number of visits there will show you that that campaign call to action is working. When you lay out these metrics, you're learning that your e-commerce features are successful or there's challenges. Again, going back to that average time on your website. The other part is you get to learn about your customers' behavior. So what are they really looking for? If they're stuck on a page that gives them quality content, their customer behavior is being identified there as well. Again, this is just down to the nitty-gritty of what's working and what's missing. Conducting keyword research, as we went over in the beginning portion of this webinar, this will tell you what your customers are searching for all over the internet. So this refers to your SEO, search engine optimization, the tabs, the keywords, the things that really identify how you can relate. When writing content in the form of social media posts, blogs, spotlights on other people's platforms, you want to have compelling copy. So what is compelling copy? Think about your blogs and online outlets or podcasts and other spaces that you need to provide information in type form of content. You might want to consider hiring a copywriter or take advantage of just a general overview of copywriting so that you feel equipped going into writing and representing your business. Honestly, you're going to be glad you did. If you have the capacity to hire someone, it relieves a lot of the stress because you're not married to that content. You have an objective perspective that's constructive, and it's not going to weigh you down when it comes to writing. Now, if writing's your thing, awesome. Then get an online course and learn the general scope of copywriting and things that you need to know, or even go to the furthest capacity of getting online certified as a copywriter. It will very, very, very much benefit your online business. I'm just going to provide you in the next couple of slides a high level of how to develop compelling copy, but keep in mind, always have a call to action that drives the audience to your website or to the destination where you can convert a sale. Sometimes people get an awesome opportunity to submit something and there's no call to action. And so basically it's like, oh, I read that and that was good information, but there's nothing to do. And there's no call to action that drives them to take the next steps. You always want to make sure your copy has a call to action. All right, so these 9 steps that we're about to go over, I would like for you to consider them as areas and kind of breakdown of what compelling copy contains. There's going to be 5 others on the next slide, but first, considering number 1, arousing interest. So sparking interest, getting that that hook, that compelling headline, something that sizzles, the commercial, right? The jingle, the idea that's going to draw them into pay attention. This is very important and honestly is the first engagement that you have through your content. You want to make sure that you identify the problem, describe the problem that your product solves. So when someone's driven to your content to read it, this is where you're going to give them the solution that you provide. You want to establish your credibility as the solver of this problem, really make the opportunity for you to establish your expertise. So this goes back to blogs, interviews, or articles or publications that you're going to be spotlighted on. And if you're just starting out, this is also where you can attach research or other people and experts in your field. So it shows that you know where to source the right information. You have the background and you've done the research because you're providing leading edge information that that is relative and current. It doesn't have to be just the fact that you have provided that expertise while you're building up your expertise. And you want to also prove credibility. So add testimonials from people who have used your product. And then again, revisit those testimonials if you're brick and mortar or you don't have an online presence, and convert those testimonials into an online presence. Something that's relatable and makes sense. Like, oh, I had the ease of, going on to their website and purchasing da-da-da. Put keywords in like that, the ease of making a transaction, so it's relative to that experience online. All right, the last 5. What is in it for me? This is always important to speak to your audience and what they're going to get out of what you're providing. Talk about the product and how it benefits the user. 6, make a compelling offer. Give a competitive advantage. Now, this doesn't always mean freemium or discounts or coupon codes or something that is monetary. Compelling advantages also means, like, if you have a health and wellness product, bioavailability of absorption because it's a supplement product, or having something that just talks about your years of experience, so having something that is a competitive advantage is also a way of creating an offer through your content. Make a strong guarantee and follow through and trust. You want to establish trust capital because your guarantee is solid. We all make mistakes. We want to humanize the experience. And with humanizing the experience comes mistakes and things that are sometimes not preventable. But making a strong guarantee establishes and reinforces your integrity. So this is important, creating urgency, time constraints, and boundaries. We are being fed information at a rapid rate with how easy it is to access reviews, information, searches, and so forth. So in that mix up of speed and how quickly we can obtain things, creating a sense of urgency plays into that. And it also draws in the customers, so they're not like, oh, I can always go to this, or I can always look back at this. When you're developing solid content, you want to be able to create urgency. And close the sale. Be transparent, be straightforward. Close the sale, or make within your guarantee that sell and ask for it. So again, driving more traffic to your website as the goal that we spoke about earlier, this increases brand awareness, our initial goal that we had set forth in establishing your online presence. Therefore, when you drive traffic, this increases the odds of conversion, offering freemium opportunities, subscriptions, or sales. At least 36% of people who have purchased from you before will buy from you again. But the key ingredient of that is if you follow up with them. When you follow up with your customers, this establishes relationship. If you don't follow up with customers, then you fall back in your competitor's swimming pool, because a lot of people fall short because they just don't follow up and they don't follow through. The advantage of online selling compared to traditional brick and mortar opportunities is the fact that you have the option of back-end selling, exclusively upselling to get their engagement and to buy. Compelling products complementing products to their original purchase is a great way after a sale has been completed or right before a sale is completed, saying, hey, this would really work for you, or because you bought this. It gives an opportunity to upsell and do that back-end selling from the initial engagement reasoning. Digital loyalty coupons that they can redeem on their next visit draws them back. And just like following up, thank you pages after their purchase. So this gives a sigh of completion and relief and reassurance, because I'm sure you've been there. Like, you buy something online and you're like, did that go through? Do I need to check my bank account? Did they charge me twice? When you have a thank you page after someone's purchase, this is really helpful, and it gives you an opportunity to offer related products. Rewarding your customers makes it easier for them to come back and stay loyal. Opportunity to connect with your clients and your customers is in the form of that email list that we talked about. Building in the opt-in opportunity is one of the most valuable assets of your online business. When you do this, this means that you have been permitted to give and send information when someone opts in as an email list subscriber. Permission is key, and it gains that relationship and trust. So building your brand from a narrative. This refers to marketing through the opportunity to connect from story and establishing your uniqueness. This success comes from using content to drive organic traffic and engaging audiences from your social media platforms and other outlets. So think of this as being able to amplify your brand through a narrative that you've set to relate to. So if you're a stay-at-home mom and you are tired of not having a resource to work with your accounting needs, and you knew something was frustrating you because you didn't have something that was simple and effective, and now there's a product out there that's your business that provides stay-at-home moms with an accounting and bookkeeping service that's easy and is user-friendly and really helps organize the household. Speak to your story as that single mom or that stay-at-home mom that needed something like that. This gives you an opportunity to relate to your audience. I give that example just as like being able to diversify your outlets through mommy groups or online mothering blogs or parenting groups that are out there. When you're sharing your unique narrative, you're able to connect with other people without having that face-to-face that the online presence kind of neglects and doesn't allow for us to have in the advantage of having a brick and mortar store does. This actually reflects on what I just shared with you and knowing your community. We spoke a good deal of time on knowing and developing your community. Again, this is who you're always going to be able to trust and refer to. But knowing your community and what their demands are and their wants is so key, and I can't stress it enough. And that's how you're able to market effectively. So we're coming to the end of our webinar. If you would like to look at the resource page that we have here, Splash is not affiliated with the link that we've provided, but I wanted to give you a bonus link, BigCommerce, market research, e-commerce. There is an awesome multiple chapter resource on this website that gives you almost like a handbook of establishing your business online. So it looks like we're at the point where we can go over our Q&A and answer any questions that you may have had during this webinar.
Yes, so we have quite a few questions. So the first one is, during the pandemic, when face-to-face is not always possible, how do you get contacts to connect with you online?
All right, I'll go ahead and take this one. And if there's any other questions that make sense for Perry to answer, she'll answer those questions for you. But to answer the question, I understood it was during the pandemic when face-to-face is not always possible. What was the second part?
Here, I'll go ahead and repeat it again. So it was during the pandemic when face-to-face contact is not always possible, how do you get contacts to connect with you online?
Okay, that's an awesome question. Basically what we're doing right here, right? A webinar, being able to offer that face-to-face value through software that is free or affordably available to connect. Another way is when you establish your community through creating social media groups. When you go live and telling everyone you're going live gives them anticipation to connect with you on a one-on-one basis. That's more face-to-face, like that we are all accustomed to, and what we're missing during a pandemic. So just think about your assets that we talked about before. Assets are things that you can utilize to help increase a goal or activity that gets you to that goal.
Okay, another question from a participant is, how often should I send out a newsletter? And is there a platform that is best for emailing out newsletters?
Yeah, your website provider may offer a newsletter option. I know that Wix does, and WordPress also offers a plugin for newsletters, but you can use Constant Contact or MailChimp and send out a newsletter to your email list. How often you should send out a newsletter is depending on where you are in the stage of your business or your startup. So if you have something that you're promoting or you are a startup, when you put out a newsletter, I recommend that you do it twice a month. You have one that's at the beginning of the month, and you want to have it be consistent. So that way your email list can look forward to the time that you're going to release that newsletter. So at the beginning of the month, and usually the third week or around the 15th, you want to push out a second newsletter. The second newsletter needs to be shorter than the first one and have a call to action. So your first one can be where you store and provide kind of the bulk of what you're putting out there as far as content. You might also want to create a teaser so that way everyone gets the anticipation of your second newsletter in the month, and have that call to action within that second newsletter that refers to that teaser. When you've developed your product or your service and you're a little bit more seasoned, you can also push out a quarterly newsletter. This also works if you are a singlepreneur and your bandwidth is limited. Having a quarterly newsletter is okay as well, but making sure that you have an email campaign that pushes people to that quarterly newsletter, makes up for not being able to provide a newsletter twice a month.
Okay, another question is, if I am selling a product, how much do I have to have in inventory at a fulfillment center? How do I know that they are maintaining the quality of my product?
This goes to Perry.
So the quantity required at the fulfillment center depends on a lot of factors. Some of it, one of the factors is how much you will be selling. If you're using a fulfillment center such as Amazon, they have specific requirements in place. They have the experience and they have the know-how to give you those numbers. You know, there are possible problems, say if all of a sudden everybody makes a run on your stuff, but that's a good thing, right? As far as the quality, that's something that you work out with the fulfillment center. There should be verbiage in your contract with them that guarantees that they will provide the product as it is presented to them. And you can always occasionally check to make sure that they are sending out your product.
Okay, and another participant asked, is it best to just hire a bookkeeper to handle the payment processing and analyzing the reports?
That really, really depends on your comfort with the bookkeeping. If you don't like numbers and you like to sell instead, then it's probably not a bad idea to find a bookkeeper to help you with that part. But it really depends on your knowledge and your level of expertise. Some small companies hire a bookkeeper first thing. Others understand everything that's going on and they never hire a bookkeeper. Online services such as QuickBooks and Mint and some of the other ones make it easy for you to do it if you understand the process that needs to be in place.
Okay, another question is, how do I get a DBA, and is it important to have one before I start my business?
The DBA is provided by the community that you're in. In our particular town, you go down to the city offices and you fill out the forms and pay a fee to get a DBA. It is important in certain cases. Some communities require you to have one whenever you start a business. Some banks require you to have one. You will have to check with the community you have your sales in to see what their requirements are.
Okay, another question is, I see ads for using LinkedIn to make money. How does that work?
So the LinkedIn sales system is not necessarily a sales or a store kind of thing. LinkedIn has a program that they call Sales Navigator, which allows for you to bring your leads into the LinkedIn system and allows you to gather information from their LinkedIn system and use that to approach these people to try and sell your products. It's a very robust system and it's geared mostly towards larger enterprises with large sales departments, but they do have an individual offering. But it looks like you need to have some leads going into the system before you start using it.
Yeah, and LinkedIn's also leveraging the fact that you have established relationships. And again, how we mentioned in the webinar, trust capital is so key and your community is very key. And LinkedIn is using that opportunity to really leverage your lead generations.
Okay, one more question. If I'm starting a consultant business or a consulting business, which are the best ways to market my new business?
Being able to connect with experts that are already existing in your field and try to leverage them through offering a spotlight in your blog to drive traffic. You want to diversify your outlets of who you attach to a certain content that you're putting out there online, being able to market your new business through existing testimonials. So do get testimonials for people that have used you in the beginning and showing that credibility, and finding opportunities for interviews. Helpareporterout.com is a website that I would suggest. There's always reporters needing leads on content or interviews, and you can pitch a reporter just like a top 10 list that you want to go over that refers to the consulting services that you can offer.
And then our final question is a Spanish question. So the question in Spanish is, si el inglés no es mi idioma principal, ¿hay una plataforma web que sea mejor para los dueños de negocios y clientes que solo hablan español? And the English question is, if English is not my primary language, is there a web platform that is best for Spanish-speaking businesses and customers?
Yes. Most of website providers offer the option of having a Google Translate plugin, or you can have a Google Translate plugin direction that you provide on your website. So, just getting someone to correctly write a small blurb of content saying that you offer these services in Spanish, use Google Translate. So anyone that goes to your website, they can see that. That's one way that you can do it. There's two other options that I could suggest. There's SmartLing, SmartLing, which is a similar service, but might be more user-friendly for some. And then Bablic, Bablic. Those are other two plugins that you can do. Similar to hiring someone for your copywriting, you can also get someone to translate, work with your local university and find students that are studying the language that you would like translated, and offer the opportunity for them to translate some of your content there to put as static information on your website.
Okay. Si hay sitios web que se adaptan a los negocios que no hablan en inglés, dependiendo en el sitio web, hay ciertos widgets y configuraciones que permiten a los clientes y a los dueños del negocio que no hablan en inglés traducir a la página de web a su idioma principal. También hay diferentes recursos que puedes usar. Si quieres que alguien te haga la traducción actual, puedes buscar a alguien que sepa el idioma en el que quieres traducir tu web y ellos lo pueden hacer, pero también tienes la oportunidad de lo más buscar las opciones que el sitio web te está dando para poder conseguir esa traducción.
Perfecto.
Okay, and right here on this slide is just providing you information about Splash. I don't know if you guys want to say something specific about this.
Yeah, this year we were actually recognized as one of the top co-working spaces in Texas. You can find our article in the chat or go to coworkaholic.com to see that we are listed as one of the top co-working spaces in Texas. We offer shared workspace for business professionals, startups, entrepreneurs, basically anyone that needs to get work done in a professional environment. While we're going through this pandemic, we have taken over the past year, actually, since the end of February, we have provided sanitation and appropriate PPEs for our members or any of their members' guests and or clients. So we have put in place social distancing options for our visitors and members to use. We are not open to the public right now, but we do take reservations if anyone needs to just drop in so we can track everyone safely. Along with our services for shared workspace, we do provide conference room usage and remote office usage. So that's for someone that needs to just jump in, use an office for a day or a couple of hours because they have a webinar like this and they need a professional environment. And we offer that. That's just a smaller option than using the conference room for group gatherings. We provide high-speed internet and printing services along with mail receiving and mailing out. And we direct people to our network to give them access to information such as this webinar and other partnering opportunities throughout San Marcos and surrounding areas.
Thank you. That sounds like a great resource for anybody who's starting out. Okay, and thank you to everybody for attending our webinar. Thank you to Corinna, Perry, Rocio, and Satchev for helping bring this webinar together. We would like to invite you to our next webinar, which will be held on July 25th. This will be Perry talking about setting up a bookkeeping system. The link for that webinar will be available on our WordPress website. And on that website, you'll also be able to find all of our previous webinars. Also, in regard to this QR code, you can scan it with your phone and it will take you to our Google Post survey to get credit for having viewed this webinar. Thank you again for everybody's participation, and thank you all to our facilitators, and have a nice day.
Bye everyone, stay safe and stay
Bye.
cool.